Welcome to the LA Real Estate Podcast, your podcast on buying and selling real estate in Los Angeles. I'm your host, Sara Skelton. With me today is Justin.webb, and we are in person in studio. We have a very special guest today. Christopher Stanley from Compass is going to be discussing sustainability in regards to home ownership and what you can do as a first-time home buyer to help the planet. This is our green episode, so we'll also be sharing some tips and insights about sustainability. Justin, I got to tell you what happened at my house last night.
Let me hear it.
Oh my God. Okay, so we had a little thing with our washer and dryer. I was smelling kind of a burning smell from the laundry room, so I thought I'd have somebody come out and repair the washer and dryer. And they determined, it was just something with the dryer. They fixed it. They pulled the washer out, pulled it back. All good. Left. Super nice guys. And so I did a load of laundry last night. All was well. I decided to go upstairs and throw it in the dryer. And I walked out into the hallway and I said to myself, actually, I didn't. I said it out loud. Why the fork is the hallway wet? Stepping in puddles of water.
Probably the washer.
So it was the washer. They either forgot to put the drain hose back in or it popped out when they put it back in. So it completely flooded our entire laundry room.
Oh, man.
And so I spent an hour and a half cleaning it up with my really nice, expensive towels.
What kind of floors do you have in there?
So thankfully it was tile. And when I did the laundry room, here's a good tip. When I did the laundry room, the contractor we had was trying to talk me out of putting a drain in the laundry room floor. And I said, no, I want a drain. I want a drain just in case there's ever blah, blah, blah. And I'm so glad I had the drain in there. But there was still enough water that it went everywhere, under the baseboards, in the hallway. So anyways, I cleaned it all up. I spent an hour and a half cleaning it all up. I called the company. They came back out this morning, helped clean up any remaining water, and then they put a bunch of fans in. But that's what my night was like last night.
You just reminded me of a really good tip for the listeners out there. So most baseboard is particle board.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper, and you do the whole house real quick, whatever. But if water touches it, you know what happens, right?
Yeah.
It bubbles out, and it's impossible to make it, nearly impossible to make it clean again. So I would say use that stuff, but around bathrooms, doors, anywhere where you think there could be moisture, there could be a problem, there could be a leak, there could be a flood, there could be water coming in under the door jamb. Use wood there.
We should have talked before. Yeah, well, lesson learned. So anyways, if you're doing a laundry room, put a drain in the floor. It's worth it.
And that'll save your baseboard too.
So today is our green episode, and I wanted to talk about, we have Christopher Stanley coming on a little bit later to talk about some things you can do to help the planet. But something I wanted to discuss today is solar. I get this question asked all the time, Justin. I'm sure you do as well. Does solar add value to a home? And the answer used to actually be no. I think the answer now is it depends.
So what I've found is that older homes, when people who really, the real green people who are really on the forefront of the movement, buying that, first Prius in 1999, getting their solar, they ended up putting in these really expensive systems that are now kind of at the end of their life. They don't really produce that much power. And a lot of times they're trying to sell the house with this big,
ticket item,
with this big debt that they have to transfer to the owner, or they have to pay it off upon sale.
Some people might not realize this, but now, yes, you can buy the panels outright. But many years ago, most people leased the panels. And the way that would work is basically you're getting another loan on the house. And it was actually a real nightmare to sell a house with solar panels because you had to figure out how to pay off the loan with these solar panels in the transfer. It really was a nightmare. They figured that out a little bit better. But yes, if there is a house with very, very old solar panels, they do not add as much value as you would think.
Well, it actually becomes a liability because people go, they say, I want you to take over the lease. You go, well, it's how many how many watts is it producing a
Right.
month?
Right. How
And-
old are the panels?
And how much is it? Because they do have a lifespan. I mean, solar panels, aren't supposed to last. They're not designed to last more than 30 years.
Right.
So some of them have been on for almost 30 years.
Yeah. And we have had buyers with properties that same thing. Like they bought with solar panels, but the panels were no longer functioning or connected properly. So just because a house has solar panels, it doesn't mean that those solar panels add value. However, the technology has improved so much that I think it's really important for homeowners to do some consultations with solar companies to come out and see, does it make sense for you to get solar panels on your home? The technology is much better. They're much less expensive than they used to be. There's some big rebates and credits and all kinds of things. And now there's some neat technology, for example, the power walls where you can bank your power. There's all sorts of things.
And what people might not always realize is that that's not just taking advantage of that power you're not using to store it and use it later. Maybe now you got an electric car, charge your car for free. But also you can, depending on where you're located, you can charge up that panel when rates are cheaper and then use that power when rates are more expensive.
Or sell it back to the grid.
Or sell it back to the grid, depending on where you are.
Exactly. So long story short, I think it's important to research, see your options. Does it make sense for you to get solar panels? Many companies will do a free site visit. They'll give you an estimate. Even if they charge a little, I think it's fair enough. What I would recommend is not using these companies that are cold calling you, and there are some run-of-the-mill ones. Get reviews, get some recommendations from your realtor or from your neighbors that have done it or somebody that has a good personal experience. There's lots of great review sites online, and those are the companies that have already been vetted. So those are better companies to use. The fly-by-nights ones that just cold call all day, they tend to come in with these crazy high pitches and will call and call and call. So I would avoid those companies. But I think solar is definitely looking into. We haven't put solar panels on our house. We completely redid everything inside to make it as energy efficient as possible. However, we have been looking into it. So we got an assessment about 10 years ago, and I think it's time for us to get another one and see. Because again, I think prices have come down a lot. We actually were on the wait list for the Tesla roof,
yeah.
Yeah, that had the solar panels in the actual tiles. But unfortunately, it was delayed so much, and we had to get our roof redone because it was just really, really in bad shape. So
I
we
would have
couldn't wait
done
any
that
longer.
too, but I had I had to replace my roof between two of these atmospheric rivers.
Yeah, no.
It was like, it was not going to happen.
Usually when you replace your roof, it's because you really need to replace your roof. So there's a timeline on that. Another good tip is replace your roof before you really need to replace it. And this is lately we had this big storm, and driving around, you see people that have a blue tarp over their roof.
So many blue tarps in Tonga.
Oh my gosh. And it's like, it's time. Get that roof replaced. Anyways, so with solar, get an assessment. Figure out, does it make sense financially? Make sure you vet the company properly and
see where your break-even point is.
Right.
Usually there's, you can actually project it. Say, hey, I plan on staying in this house for 20 years, and my break-even point, depending on what incentives are offered in your area, it could be 5 years, 7 years, 15 years. Figure that out. Am I going to be in this house long enough to really, because then it becomes gravy. You cross that threshold, and now you're just saving money every year, every month, every week.
And it's better for the planet.
And it's better for the planet, and that's the theme of today's podcast.
Yay! Here's a buyer's tip. Check the WaterSense website for tips on saving water. The website's put out by the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. Lots and lots and lots of suggestions on how to save water, thereby helping the environment and also saving you money on your water bill. I'd like to introduce everybody to my buddy, Christopher Stanley from Compass. So Christopher and I have known each other. I was trying to remember when we first met. I think it might be like 7 years ago, Christopher.
I believe it was 2018.
Oh my gosh.
Probably.
Wow. A lot's happened since then. But Christopher
Yes.
is a somewhat expert in sustainability, and we really wanted to discuss this today. So he's here to with some great tips about how to be more sustainable as a homeowner. So, Christopher, welcome so much to the LA Real Estate Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And so let's get right into it. So, first-time home buyer, you own a home. How can we help the planet?
Sure. And can I just say first, the definition of sustainability? Some people aren't even familiar. Sustainability is the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So basically, it's worrying about your kids and your grandkids. Are they going to have a nice, healthy planet to live on? So that's what we're working toward. It's really, this is about, for today and tomorrow.
How did you get started in this, Christopher?
So I studied a lot of these issues in college, environment, economic development. I wound up having two other careers. I was a manufacturer of an eco-friendly bath and body company back in the 90s and 2000s. And then 2005, I started in real estate. So I've always tried to incorporate sustainable practices if I could. But during the pandemic, after we met, I had a lot of time to reflect and to look back on what really interests me, and just looking at how the world changed almost immediately when the economy shut down. And remember, the animals were coming back out, and the skies were clear.
The air was clean.
The fish were, the whales were coming back. It was like, it's all there. It's waiting to come. They're all waiting to come back. These beautiful, beautiful things.
Wow.
So I started digging into documentaries, reading books about it, and I decided I'm going back to school. And I'm just about to finish my environmental studies degree on top of my other degrees that I have in economic development. And I'm motivated to work in sustainability now full time. And whether that's just as the sustainable realtor or other areas, I don't mind. I just want to make the world more sustainable. I've studied the science. I understand the economics and the social aspects. I got it. I've got the memo, and it's really serious. It's really important that we focus on it, and it's all fixable. I didn't know that going into my courses, and now I do. It's like we have all the solutions we need today, right now.
Well, and that's actually amazing. That's amazing insight, because I think some people think, well, what I do doesn't matter. It's just such a big problem. Doesn't matter if I recycle it. Doesn't matter if I grow some of my own vegetable. It just doesn't matter. And I love hearing from you that it does matter. And one person can make a difference. And a lot of individual people can make a big difference. So what are some tips on things that people can do today that can make a difference?
Absolutely. I hear that all the time. I'm just one person. What can I do? It's not true. There are a million things you can. There's like 200 things I could give you a list of. But here's for the homeowner in Los Angeles and anywhere really. Here are some like top things that you can do. The bottom line is we want to reduce waste. That's how you become more sustainable. And reducing waste, that saves money. Almost always it saves money. So, the first thing to do, if you haven't done it, do it tomorrow. LED lighting everywhere in your house.
Ooh.
When I did that, my electricity bill plummeted. LED lighting uses 90% less electricity than incandescent bulbs. So if you haven't switched yet, get to IKEA. They're $1. It's a $1 solution to stop climate change.
And they're so much better now. I feel like people fought against putting in LED lighting because it was too harsh. But the bulbs are so much better than they used to be. And it really does save you money.
Absolutely. The technology is going hyperspeed now. And with AI, it's going to be a game changer. It's going to make everything so much faster. And technological innovation is now in hyperspeed. It's really amazing what's happening.
That's a great tip.
That's like the first thing. The second thing I tell everybody, organics recycling. So personally, I did a waste audit at home for one of my courses, and I found out that 38% of my entire waste budget for the week, stuff that's going in the garbage, was organic food waste. And I cook a lot, so maybe mine's a little higher than others, but I don't think so. So all that food was going into my garbage can, into the black bin, and to a landfill. That creates methane and gas emissions, which are 25% more potent than carbon dioxide. So you're doing 25% more damage with those methane emissions. And that's just going to the environment, making everything warmer, raising our insurance rates, right?
Right.
Insurance rates are
Right.
skyrocketing. It's because of climate change. That industry, they understand it, they're on board, and they're charging for it. Okay. So everyone else needs to get involved. But the organic stuff, it was 38% of my waste stream. It was so easy. I
Wow.
just throw it in a container, stick it in my freezer. There are so many ways to do it. You could do a compost bucket on the counter. You could do it in the yard. You can, but we have green waste bins. All the green waste can go out there now, not just yard waste. Yard waste has been collected for years, and that's considered brown waste.
Mm-hmm.
Food scraps are considered green waste. So those can be now mixed together in the green bin, and they can all go to composting. And that either creates an energy source plus some sludge, which makes a soil amendment for crops, or it goes straight to compost, which goes into a soil amendment.
And we're so lucky in LA. They come to our house and pick it up. They pick up the green bins. So we've been throwing potato peels and eggshells and all kinds of stuff in those bins for a long time. And you're right, it really reduces our garbage.
Absolutely. And so it's less waste to the landfill and incineration, which are two things you want to avoid in zero waste principles, because those create toxins and greenhouse gases. So we want to reduce those. But it's just, once you get into it, you realize, because people are so afraid of it. And I'll tell you, people are not doing it in LA. It's just not happening. And I know, because we've done some surveys of bins on collection day. There's no food waste in there. I don't know why. People are really afraid of it, but once you get into it, you realize, oh, this is so easy.
Maybe people don't know. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't. You just pop the door open and throw your peels and your scraps in the bin.
Super simple, no bugs, no fuss, no muss. It's so easy. And for gardeners and stuff, it's a great soil amendment. You can have your own little compost pile or a compost bucket outside that's processing it with worms. It's really easy, a couple $100 and you've got it. And it's really fun. It's kind of fun. Once you get into it, it becomes a joy. And you feel like, hey, I just cut out my waste to landfill 38%. That's significant if everybody did that. So those are the two really big things. The third thing that's huge is landscaping. Get rid of the lawns. There's this I'll attach my latest article. It's on unlawning. It's a trend that people are getting rid of the traditional lawns, let them grow up a foot and then cut them and leave the grass there. It's called grass cycling. That goes into the soil. It enriches the soil. And if you plant native grasses and native plants, and again, get rid of most of the lawn, it's just a dead zone. And I don't know, like the statistics are really shocking. The lawns in America are equivalent in land area to all the crops in the country.
Wow.
But they're completely biodiverse, lacking. They have no biodiversity, birds, bees, insects that we need, animals. They have no reason to go there because it's just not healthy for them. It's toxic, pesticides and all these excessive nutrients going in there. They're dead zones. If you look around, you'll see people are doing this, and they're beautiful yards. They've got flowering bushes and trees that are growing fruit. There's just all sorts of biodiversity there. The birds come back, the butterflies, the bees, which we definitely need. They pollinate half of our crops in America. We need those bees, and we need to make sure they have a healthy environment to live on. And it saves a ton of water. It reduces nutrients. I don't know if, nutrients that you're putting in, it's like, oh, that's just fertilizer. That's good. It's actually not. There's just too much. In terms of sustainability, there are these eight boundaries that we are close to surpassing and reaching tipping points. And nitrogen is the number one. We've already passed it. We're putting too much nitrogen we're upsetting the nitrogen balance of the globe, and it's making dead zones that are the size of Texas in the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
They run down from the agricultural lands down on the Mississippi all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. It kills all the wildlife in the ocean the size of Texas every year. It's really, really serious stuff.
Here's a green buyer's tip. Get yourself a compost, and they have ones that are really cool with a turning handle. So you can put some of your table scraps in there, throw them in, you put some worms in, you rotate it every once in a while, and it's homemade fertilizer for your garden where you can grow your own vegetables. And it's a great little tip to save you money, good for the garden, good for the environment.
Worms are happy too.
The worms are happy too. With LADWP, there are rebates as well for removing some of your grass and putting in desert landscaping or more sustainable plants. So it's really important for people to look into that because you might get some money back. I know there's rebates for irrigation timers that save water and all kinds of things. So it's really good to look on their website and see what kind of money you can get back for doing some of these water saving measures.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks. Yeah, and more, and also the Inflation Reduction Act does so much for climate change, and that's a new law, and there are tons of rebates there that people don't even know about. It's all online, so people just Google that and pull that up. There, you can get rebates for, your electric cars, your water heaters, your solar, just like tons of stuff. Heat pumps, which are a new trend, save a ton of money on heating, and your dryer for your washer. Those are the biggest energy users, plus lighting. So those are the three big ones in your home that you want to be concerned about.
I actually have an anecdote there on the IRA and because that last year I put in a heat pump, replaced my wall furnace. I was thinking about doing like the cheap Amazon one, you could get kind of the same one for $800. And I was like, no, I'm going to get the name brand American Pioneer, best one you can possibly get, licensed installer and everything. And when you counter it in the tax discount, it's actually cut right off your taxes. It's not actually from the IRA.
Right.
It's actually cheaper than if I'd bought the cheapo one and had my buddy put it in.
Wow.
Oh, because it's an import. You mean those are imports, the cheap ones?
Well, because you can have 30% of the whole cost. So when I got the cheapo guy, the handyman,
right,
and then the cheap one from Amazon, paying full price because I didn't have the SEER rating. It was actually cheaper to get the best stuff.
So you got a really, really good one, but with the 30%, it ended up being really cost effective.
Absolutely. Now I just did that with my water heater. That's going to be this year's taxes.
It's amazing. I mean, and are you saving money? Are you noticing a difference, or is it too soon to know?
It's hard to say because I'm on the flat fee plan, but it's definitely way more comfortable. We're much more comfortable, and I'm sure it is more efficient, and the house is more evenly heated.
Well, you should be able to tell that on the bills in LA. You can read through and you go online or look on your bill, but it'll have a usage over the past year, and it compares year to year, this quarter and that quarter, or 2-month period or whatever they do. So you can kind of track that, but generally, I'm sure you're going to save money. Solar is another way. Solar's been difficult because it's expensive to install solar in a home. It's now half as much as it was 10 years ago. So that's good. It's scaling up fast and it's getting much cheaper. On a big scale, solar is now equal in price to coal, which is the cheapest energy source. So that's amazing. And it's going to go lower as we keep adding capacity. But the home stuff is not yet super cheap. It's still a small savings in the end, but it's also, saving the planet in a way. So that's a non-economic benefit that you need to think about. It will get cheaper and more cost effective because once they update the grid, which is part of the Inflation Reduction Act, and it's desperately needed, it hasn't been our energy grid hasn't been updated in 100 years practically. That once we have smart meters and all that stuff, you'll be able to sell back your excess when you're not using it to the grid and make money that way. So it'll become basically the future looks so impressive. It's going to be free energy.
Well, and the technology, I mean, technology is moving so fast. It really is incredible. There's way more innovation. I think there's more reward for taking the risks of innovation. People see how important it
Hmm.
is. And so it's exciting. I mean, I think it's actually an exciting time to be a new homeowner and to see in the next decade and 2 decades what a technology comes along that can save. The other thing, I'm sure you probably have this on your list, is the smart thermostats. That has saved us so much money.
Yeah, and you can put smart switches in now that will turn power down computers and TVs, and cable boxes especially use tons of energy. They're a major source of energy in the homes, and they just waste it all day. They're using energy. Cable box is like the number one culprit here.
I had no idea. Really? That little
Huge amount of
box.
energy for that. It's constantly processing everything. So if you can power those down with a smart switch, you're saving a lot of money. Go on vacation, smart switch off everything, and you're just going to stop using energy for that week or whatever, however long you're gone. That's really fun. Another fun thing is people are starting to use push lawnmowers. You get rid of the gasoline, you get some exercise. People who are reducing all that lawn space anyway, and it becomes this fun thing that the kids are like, "Ooh, I want to do it." That's fun. It's like it's kind of quirky and antiquity. Like everybody's like, "Oh, my grandparents had one of these."
My 86-year-old dad, who lives in northern Canada, where there is no shortage of water, that's for sure, in the Yukon Territory, he still uses a push mower. We have a tiny little thing of grass, and then he uses his push mower on there at 86. So if an 86-year-old can do it.
For sure. And then here's a fun one. Pitch a tent over your attic door. A lot of energy, a lot of heat and cooling air is lost through your attic. And so people are pitching
Oh.
tents, just nylon tents above the door inside the attic, and then that insulates that door. So you're just saving a ton of energy. It's really like this crazy way. There's an article today. Ironically, there's an article on how to save energy in your home for $100 or less, and it gives a bunch of tips. This is one of them. I thought it was amazing. They estimate you could save this way $2,000 over the course of a decade. So there's a little mini vacation right there.
That's actually such a clever idea. I never would have thought to do that. I'm going to do that, especially in the winter.
Yeah, and cold water wash. Hot water is rarely necessary to wash your clothing. So cold water wash saves a ton of heating. Heating that water makes costs a lot. Heated blanket in the winter in your bedroom instead of heating the entire house. There are different ways to do that if you don't have it set up in zones, which most people don't yet. Dryer vents, if they get stuck a lot open, the dryer vent, kind of has a flap, but oftentimes it'll be stuck open and it's just letting your heat out constantly. That's apparently a big thing. And then turn your water heater down. It doesn't need to be that hot. You don't need scalding water ever, really. So most people don't know that. You just turn it down to like 120 or less.
That's a really good tip, actually, because we did that with our kids because I found out the hot water coming out of our taps was scalding hot. And I was just worried. Yeah, when they were little, I was worried they get burned. So I turned it down, and it does save money. All these things are helpful to the environment, but they're also, I think people's behavior changes when they can save money. But if you can save money and also help the planet, I mean, really, it's a win-win for everybody. Christopher, thank you so much for all of these amazing tips. I feel like we have so many more to cover. We will link to you in the podcast notes, and you can share any of the articles that you've written. And that way people can hop on here and maybe come up with some more tips.
Awesome. It's so great to see you and talk. And let's do this again next time. I love it.
Yeah, we will. And thank you for everything that you're doing, all the research you're putting in and the work to try and make a difference, because maybe one person can make a little difference. A lot of us can
Absolutely.
make a big
Let me
difference.
shout out to the realtors. We have the Greater Los Angeles Realtor Association has a new sustainability working group, which I'm heading. And so if anybody wants to come in, check it out, see what we're doing, what's happening. We've got a new bottle bill, a bottle ban that we're going to talk to realtors and say, hey, No more plastic bottles. 1 trillion plastic bottles are being disposed of every single year globally. It's disgusting. It's getting into our water and our food. We're going to have a ban. We're going to have a program to say, hey, don't use those. Get yourself an aluminum can. Those will get recycled. That bottle will not get recycled, but the cans will. Use those. Or and then when you're personally, just get your refillable water bottle. It's so easy. Saves a lot of money for your budget.
That's a good tip. You know what? I'm going to make a commitment to you today because I'm notorious for I'm always on the go. I've got a busy life. I've got 2 kids. I'm running around and I do buy bottled water. I'm going to make a commitment to you today. I will no longer buy a bottle of water ever. I'm going to bring I'm going to grab a reusable and I'm going to make that
I love
commitment
it.
today. No more bottles
Yeah.
of water.
LaCroix tastes better anyway.
Yeah, it does. Right. LaCroix tastes better. All right. Well, Christopher, thank you so much for coming on the LA Real Estate Podcast. We will do a link in the podcast notes so people can get in touch with you with more questions or just to get more information. But we really appreciate your time. This is a really important issue. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the LA Real Estate Podcast. I'm Sara Skelton, your host. I'm with today Justin.webb from the Skelton Group.
You are correct, sir.
We might be getting a little silly. I don't know. It's been fun to hang out and do this again, Justin.
Yeah, it has.
We love this podcast. Thank you so much for listening and joining us. We had an amazing guest today, Christopher Stanley. Please look at the podcast notes. He's got a ton more tips on there, some news articles, and we'll have his contact information so you can reach out to him directly. Of course, if you're looking for a great realtor that has your back, Justin and I are available. We are taking on new clients. We tend to focus a lot in Northeast LA. If that is your vibe, you're looking for an awesome house, or if you're a home seller and you're looking for a realtor, we are happy to help you. So please reach out to us on the podcast, contact us. We can take you out for coffee and talk all about your goals and help you find your perfect house or sell your house to find another perfect house.
Yeah, a more perfect house.
A more perfect house. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. Sorry, I just had an espresso candy and it's kicking in.